right now. We'll bring in Brian W. Spencer, who, of course, has had a couple of terrific winners down in New Orleans, is going to add the same role at Arlington when they open up come this spring after Hawthorne finishes. And Brian, of course, a big contributor and just so insightful, helping the horse players at horseplayernow.com. Brian, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Steve. Glad to be back on the program.
Brian, getting a little freshening in between meets.
Yeah, I had a little bit of relaxation. Finished my drive yesterday, and I get back to pre-meet business tomorrow morning.
Outstanding. Well, this topic certainly one that you can speak to, given the role at Horse Player Now and with the contributions on the buzz reports and so forth. You've had so many successful suggested plays, particularly identifying price horses and then utilizing them effectively. I've asked everybody the same question. Give your basic underlying foundation of approach when people have limited funds available to play.
And this is something that I got a lot of experience in college. I used to take all my tip money from Starbucks and go straight to Portland Meadows every Monday and play the races there and try to supplement my income. So got a little bit of strategic benefits out of that. And I think that really my two big things are that you just have to be so much more focused. You can't really afford to take action bets. You can't afford to accept underlays because you've got to get the bang out of every single dollar that you've got. And I think that really the thing that took me a long time to learn, and one that has really benefited in my wagering, on days when I am still playing with a small bankroll, is that with a small bankroll, you're much more at the mercy of a race card and how it's drawn. You may have 3 great opinions on a card, but if they're in races 1, 5, and 10, you're not going to be able to string those together in multi-race wagers. So you've got to play them vertically within the races, straight win, straight place bets, because, when you're playing with a bigger bankroll, maybe you can single your horse and you've got those extra dollars and you have that luxury of, maybe buying a race you don't like around it. But when you're playing with, a smaller amount, you really don't have the ability to do that. And so you really have to figure out where your opinions lie on the card and then figure out how you want to attack it.
Well, and that's really gets right back to one of our first points of the evening, which was having a plan and working the plan and knowing what you've got to spend and then figuring out where it's going to be best applied.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And you've also got to kind of know going into it what kind of player you are. That's totally true when you're a big bankroll player as well. But, are you taking your $75 to the track and just trying to grind out a profit and come home with $150, or are you going to take some swings? Do you want to come home with $500 or $600, and are you willing to risk your small bankroll in order to do that? And I think you just kind of have to figure out what you're looking to get out of it. But, I think with a small bankroll, you're probably a little bit better off sticking to the smaller multi-race wagers if you're a horizontal player, really sticking to those daily doubles, those 50-cent pick threes, instead of taking more of those dreamer swings at, 4 or 5 figure pick fours and pick fives, because, if you're putting $24 into a really tough pick 5 at Keeneland, you're playing against guys who are putting in hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they are covering those 30-to-1s that you can't find on paper. So I really think you just have to be realistic about what you can get out of your money, but occasionally a race card gets drawn in a way that just kind of, really aligns with your opinions, and you are able to play a 50-cent pick 5 for $20 because 2 of your strongest plays you can single in there. So it really depends on that. But, I've become a big fan of, on those smaller days, really taking advantage of those 50-cent pick threes and daily doubles.
And I want to press into that, and at the same time, I'm curious, as a day goes by, and I'm thinking back to when I started, and I might, have come into a day, with, I don't know, $200, maybe $140, $150, and one thing I've always done, and I still do, is pocket a profit, meaning if I get up early in the day, I don't necessarily take everything that that is a bonus, everything that's plus and press. I will siphon off and make sure that if I'm ahead early, I've got something in another pocket that basically guarantees the day. How much in terms of building momentum when you're operating on a small bankroll? I think some of the people may think to themselves, well, I'll keep playing on the house money because even if I lose everything, it's only $50, it's only $100, and that's what I budgeted for the day. But there is a way with real organized approach and self-control to more or less keep feeding the kitty and keeping things, keeping the ball in the air.
Yeah, I totally agree because, if you're starting out and you have a good early portion of the card, I'm of two minds of this on this in a lot of different ways because, number one, we all know that scared money is dead money. It's bad money. You're not going anywhere with it. So, if you're starting with $75 and all of a sudden you got $250 in your pocket, take out $150 because now that, you're guaranteed a profit for the day, you've still got $100 left, and I can guarantee you that money is not scared at all because you've got it to be able to really sort of, hammer on your favorite plays there. At the same time, if it's just one of those days, and I know that it's really more random than we like to think, as a sort of superstitious bettors, but, sometimes a day is just going your way, and there's nothing wrong with, you had some money set aside for your favorite play in race number 10, you're up for the day, go ahead and double it, as long as it's not going to negatively impact your day overall. But I'm totally with you on that. I think, especially if you can guarantee yourself a profit that you're really happy with and tuck that away and be, very committed to not gambling that money, then you're just really trying to build bankroll the rest of the day with, as you sort of said, house money, but it's not money that, is really going to impact your overall day unless you have a good end of the day too.
And along those lines, because I completely agree with this thinking. Talk about being in a position at that point as well to keep pressing and to gain some momentum. There are people with so much self-control, Brian, like you talked about. If you looked at a card and there's something good in race 1, race 5, and race 9, there's some people who will only bet those races. But then there's plenty of people who, if they get a sense that they're on a roll and they're seeing the ball well, they will go ahead and play. And I wouldn't want to dissuade anybody from that either.
Yeah, I think that, you really have to kind of just sort of know your own comfort level because you really, for certain people, both of those directions are completely fine because, for me, that hypothetical race card with the 159, if I'm well up after race 5, some of my biggest scores personally have come from this same sort of situation where I'm up midday. But what I'm doing now is I'm not digging into races 6, 7, and 8 that I didn't like to begin with. I'm just figuring out now how to bet more on the horse I like in race 9. Do I want to play a pick 3 and single him, maybe because I've got some money to, go 6 or 7 deep in a couple of races I didn't really like, or do I want to play the horse up and back and with all in the exactas because I've got that extra cash? I really would much rather take that money, and if I'm going to press and try to really turn it into a big day, I'm going to turn it into a big day still with my biggest opinions, which is not to say that I never take action wagers. I certainly do, but I think that, by and large, it's your opinions that you need to be backing, and you need to do it confidently. You need to do it fearlessly. And if you get up in the day, stick to that opinion because that's how you got up in the first place. So really try to maximize the ones that you have left remaining on the card instead of going to try to invent new opinions in races you originally didn't like.
I love hearing the discussion between other handicappers like you guys who I know and respect, and Kate and Gabby and Jim that we've had tonight, because just sitting here listening to the two of you converse over the last 5 minutes, to blend some of those ideas together, Steve talks about siphoning money back that you want to put away to make sure you walk out of here a winner today. Let's say you made $200 and you say, I'm leaving here with at least 100. You peel back 100, siphon off 100, as Steve calls it, put it in your wallet. What about with that other 100 if you say, when I'm hot, I'm taking X percent, 20%, 25%, and putting it in my Let It Ride fund or whatever you want to call it, where you're really feeling it. And then you siphon that money off into a separate mental area, a different pocket, whatever you will, and say, you know what, when I'm feeling it, I'm going to spend this, but I'm only going to spend this amount, which might be $20, $25 out of that 100. I mean, if you can mentally conserve yourself to save money, you can also mentally teach yourself to become a risk taker and to try to press the old Bobby Frankel, bet more when you're hot, less when you're not strategy. But if you trick your mind a little bit, I've never done this, but I've always done the peel back money on the conservative side of it. But I'm kind of thinking, listening to you guys talking, like Steve's saying, when you're feeling it and you want to go after it, what about creating not the opposite of the rainy day fund, the sunny day fund, maybe, that you put a little extra money on the side to go after?
No, I completely listen. I do both. I mean, I'll take a percentage and keep padding the bankroll, and I'll take a healthy chunk and make sure that I do that with my online account. I mean, if I hit something big early in the card, I'll instantly transfer money out and make sure I absolutely guarantee that it's going to be a big day, a big weekend. I mean, I don't need to have. I don't need to look and see a big fat balance, in the account. I can always put it back if I'm really. But once I've taken it out, I'm very good about having it out, and that part of it to me, I've always been very. In terms of self-control, when it comes to that, I have never had a problem, and I suggest it. I mean, I think we had that conversation was it last week with Jonathan Kinchin, and he talked about hard work. Well, this is hard work of a different kind, making sure that that you've got self-control, and as Brian just said, nothing wrong with the action bet here and there, but you can't just particularly if you've got a limited fund available, you can't just use it pell-mell.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with that, especially you referencing, playing in your account instead of necessarily with cash at the racetrack, because I think that one of the tougher things mentally for a lot of horse players and for a long time, myself included, is, treating the money in an online wagering account the same as cash in your pocket. So I do the exact same thing you do. If I had a nice pick four, play my ticket, I get $800 back. I immediately take $600 out, the minute the race is over and it's in my account, because especially when you're playing in an online account, so much easier to say, oh, there's 6 minutes until this race at Santa Anita. Just let me look it up and see if there's something I like, because guess what? If you're in that mindset, you're going to find something that you like, even if you really shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of some of the choices, and you talked about some doubles and the multi-race wagers. What's your approach, Brian? Because I asked this also of Jim in terms of utilizing narrow focus and trying to minimize the expense. Do you try to get clever and try to single and build around singles, or do you just play it out and make sure you've got everybody that could possibly win appropriately covered in the multis?
See, and yeah, I mean, I think that, again, a lot of it has to do with each person's wagering personality. I'm, as I mentioned at the top of the segment, I'm not really a grinder. I'd rather not lose money, period, but I'd rather lose money going for, a high 3, low 4-figure score than grind out a $30 profit over the course of the day. But that doesn't work for everybody, and some people do better otherwise. One of my favorite things to do is, when I like a price horse, we're not even talking a big bomber, but, something in that 8-1 to 12-1 range. One of my favorite things to do is to single that horse in, say, a 50-cent pick 3 and try to use, maybe 6 horses in one race and 4 in another, however much you need, but, keep it in that $20 range for a 50-cent bet with your price single, because even if you catch a chalk and your $16 horse wins, you can get maybe a 9-2 in the next leg, and your 50-cent pick 3 is going to come back a few $100. I'd rather take that kind of shot and string together a 3x3x5 ticket, just covering logical horses, and have a couple of 9 to 5s come in and see my $20 ticket pay $22. That's not for me. That's not my style.
No, I'm the same way, and we talked with a little bit earlier about structure, and being in a position, if you're playing those races, you do want the price in the sequence, or if you're playing within a race, I use the reference of these chalky Derby trail races all winter and spring, and being able to find the 20-1 shot, the Danzig Moon and the Ten Sendor, that is going to turn the slam dunk winner into a decent triple or a decent super if that's what you're playing. So the increments are your friend, and there's careful measured structure that is your friend if you're playing on, even if you're not playing on a limited budget. If you're playing on a big budget, you don't want to waste money either. So all the way around, I thought we hit on a lot of top points. Brian, looking forward to the Chicago season from your perspective back at Arlington Park. And one more time, congratulations on a great winter in New Orleans, and we thank you for this visit tonight as well.
Thanks a lot, Steve and Jeremy.